You used to lift weights years ago. Then life happened. You stopped. Your muscles shrank, your strength faded, and you assumed all that progress was gone for good. But the real answer is far stranger. Somewhere inside your muscle fibers, a record of everything you once did is still sitting there, waiting. It never actually left. Here's the strange part. If you start training again after years away, you don't build strength from zero. You build it back faster than the first time. Much faster. Your muscles seem to remember. For a long time, nobody could explain why. Then scientists started looking directly inside the muscle cells themselves, and what they found changed how we understand exercise entirely. To understand this, you need to picture a muscle fiber differently than you probably do. It isn't one simple cell with one nucleus, like most cells in your body. A muscle fiber is a giant cell packed with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of nuclei along its length. When you train hard and your muscles grow, your body doesn't just enlarge existing nuclei, it adds new ones. Small stem cells called satellite cells fuse into the fiber, donating their nuclei to help build and maintain more muscle protein. Think of it like hiring extra workers to keep up with a bigger job. Here's the question that puzzled researchers for years. When you stop training and your muscle shrinks back down, do those extra nuclei disappear too? In 2010, a Norwegian scientist named Christian Gundersen ran an experiment on mice that gave a startling answer. He trained the mice, let their muscles grow, then had them stop entirely, long enough for the muscle to shrink back to its original size. When he looked inside the fibers, the extra nuclei were still there. The muscle had gotten smaller, but the added nuclei stuck around for months, which for a mouse is a huge portion of its lifespan. Nothing was lost. It was just waiting. Why would the body do this? Because building new nuclei is expensive and slow. Tearing them down and rebuilding them from scratch every time you take a break would be wildly inefficient. Instead, your body appears to treat muscle growth as a long-term investment. Once it builds the infrastructure, it holds onto it, betting that you'll come back and use it again. And if you do come back, that stored infrastructure means that you don't have to build from nothing. You just have to reactivate what's already there. This might explain something you've probably felt yourself. Getting your first set of real strength as a total beginner feels brutally slow. Weeks and weeks of small, frustrating gains. But regaining strength after a break feels almost unfair in how fast it happens. Some athletes have described getting back to their old numbers in a fraction of the time it originally took. That's not motivation or muscle memory in some vague, poetic sense. It's biology. The workers were never fired, they were just off the clock. But nuclei aren't the whole story. In 2018, a researcher named Robert Seaborn, working with a team studying epigenetics, found something even deeper. Epigenetics, in plain terms, is the set of chemical switches that turn genes on or off without changing the genes themselves. Seaborn's team trained volunteers, let them detrain, then trained them again months later. They found specific genes involved in muscle growth had chemical markers, patterns of DNA methylation, that shifted after the first training period and stayed shifted even after the muscle had shrunk back down. When training resumed, those genes switched on faster and more efficiently than before. Your muscle wasn't just physically primed to grow again. Its genetic machinery was primed too. Stop and consider what that means. Every serious training block you've ever done in your life may have left a molecular signature behind, not a memory in the way your brain remembers a name or a face. A literal physical change in how your muscle cells read their own genetic instructions. You laid down infrastructure your body refuses to fully dismantle, because from an evolutionary standpoint, strength was never a luxury. Think about why that would matter to your ancestors. For most of human history, physical strength wasn't about aesthetics or gym numbers. It was about survival, carrying food, building shelter, escaping danger, fighting when necessary. A body that could regain lost strength quickly after an injury, an illness, or a lean season had a serious advantage over one that had to rebuild from scratch every single time. Natural selection likely favored exactly this kind of system. Fast recovery, efficient reactivation, because the difference between slow and fast strength recovery could have meant the difference between surviving a hard winter and not making it through. This reframes what a workout actually is. You're not just building temporary strength that decays the moment you stop. You're making a deposit into a biological account that stays open far longer than most people assume. Muscle you build in your 20s may still be quietly influencing how easily you regain strength in your 40s, decades after you stopped training that hard. Some researchers even suspect this system plays a role in why older adults who exercised heavily when younger often regain mobility and strength faster after a period of inactivity. like recovering from surgery, compared to those who never trained hard at all. So what about people who feel like they've lost everything after years off? The truth is more forgiving than it feels. That soreness after your first week back, that frustration at how weak you suddenly feel, isn't evidence that your progress vanished. It's evidence that your body is reactivating a system it never fully deleted. The nuclei are still there. The genetic switches are still primed. What feels like starting over is often closer to picking up where you left off, just with some rust to shake off first. There's something quietly reassuring in that. Effort you put in years ago isn't wasted the moment life gets in the way. Your body doesn't erase your history, it archives it. Every hard set, every difficult week of training, every period of consistency, even long ago, may still be shaping how your muscles respond today. Strength, it turns out, isn't just something you have or don't have in the moment. It's something your body keeps a record of quietly, at the cellular level, for far longer than anyone expected. So the next time you look at old strength you think you lost, remember what's actually happening. You didn't lose it. Your muscles are still holding on to everything you've ever done. They're just waiting for you to come back and use it again. If your body still surprises you, subscribe. And if this one landed, a like goes a long way.